Hi, this is Jonathan with Elevate Roofing and Exteriors, your roofing expert. So there's been a lot of talk here lately about Florida roofing contractors and how the new law, SB 781 or whatever it is that DeSantis just signed, that goes into effect July 1st, is going to affect the business practices there in Florida. So there's a few things that I want to back up and talk a little bit about the beginnings of this immigration issue, because I think it's so easy to just try to jump in on one little decision or one little law or one little thing and make some type of big overreaching conclusion and judgment about what's happening. But the reality is we need to go back to the roots of what's really going on. And the fact is that immigration in the USA is a big hot mess. We all know that. Those of you who are immigrants here know this. And the problem is it's playing with people's lives. I work with a lot of Hispanics each and every day. And I think of the world of these people. And I have a lot of humanitarian feelings about them and wanting to help them. And the problem is we are taking a class of people, mainly Hispanics and immigrants from the southern hemisphere, and we're using them as a political football. And really both parties are doing this willingly and knowingly. And to me, it's tantamount almost to like slavery. And the reason I say that is because we don't really care. Slavery is when you don't care about the rights of people or a class of people and you use them for your own good. That to me is a definition of slavery. We think about it just in working in fields or cotton fields, but really slavery is when you're taking advantage of people and not giving them full rights of freedom and that everyone else deserves, and you're making them perform under adverse conditions, and then you're literally making them a slave class. And what we've done with the immigration things here in America is we have made the especially Hispanic population a slave class of individuals. And it's sad, it's terrible, I'm against it 100%, and I don't care if that's Democrat or Republican. It's very interesting, back in the early part of this century, in the 2006 or something like that, it was George Bush and Kennedy, the most conservative, the most liberal that you could find at the time, Robert Kennedy from Massachusetts, got together, and they actually came together to institute a comprehensive immigration reform. And in that reform, they had decided that they were going to give people who were here some type of path to at least, if not citizenship, at least legal residency. And then at this other end, they were going to close off the borders to keep out the drug cartels and keep out all the people that would want to use that open border as a way to traffic and smuggle guns, people, drugs, and all the things. So listen, here's a few facts here. There's no denying that good people come across the border looking for an opportunity. That's real. And we need some of these people because there's not enough people to do the work that's needed in some of these areas, especially in construction. What's also true is that cartels and criminals are using this open border to transport human trafficking victims, young girls, young boys, and people for sex trafficking in the U.S. There's drugs that are flowing freely across the border. So what's so sad is everybody's locking in on the extremes of this argument. There is a middle ground, and everybody in Washington knows there's a middle ground. But the problem is it's a political football. It creates passions so hard on the right and on the left that literally they use this football to play a game. And the problem is that game, the people that are directly affected by this terrible game are a class of people. And to me, that is completely unethical and completely terrible, and I see it on both sides. You've got the right who digs in and says, we're not going to give in and allow people legal residency, like we're going to somehow go around and round up 11 million residents here and send them back and tear families apart. We know that, number one, that we don't have any moral aptitude to do something like that, and we don't have the money to do something like that. On the other end, you've got the far left that thinks this is a good idea to leave a border open and allow the free flow of trafficking and sex and drugs and guns and everything else, and even possible terrorism. And so the extremes are playing games here. And so when we talk about what DeSantis did, DeSantis is running for president. And I'm a conservative, if you want to know the truth. I lean conservative, but I also know politics when I see politics. And this bill was to influence the political game that's going on. It's what it was. This wasn't to answer some type of major problem in Florida. This wasn't to try to do something big that was causing an issue. What this really was about was DeSantis being able to put in his card that he's for the conservative causes and fire up the right base. So there's still talk how much of this is going to be really enforced. You know, they pass laws all the time that aren't enforced. There's still sodomy laws on the books in some of the states that they don't ever enforce. So just because a law is passed doesn't mean it's going to be enforced. So I don't know. I don't know how hard it's going to be enforced. I've asked lawyers. I've asked different ones in the community in Florida, you know, is this going to be enforced? There seems to be a belief that it's not because it was such a political move. But I can tell you that, you know, we do think about these things. We do not have 25 plus employees on our roll book right now. We're trying to keep it under that so that we don't have to get into the scary parts of E-Verify that really scare some of our clientele. You know, I'm gonna give you the final story about a guy that works for me to this day, and I won't say his name for privacy's sake, but we'll just say that I'm just gonna call him Mr. Sheetrock because he's a sheetrock guy for me. And Mr. Sheetrock came into the country legally. He came into El Paso many years ago under a worker's permit, and he got a work visa. What they don't tell you in the news is that work visa lasted for 6 months. And the rule is that you have to go back to the place of origin, which he was in El Paso, every 6 months in person to renew that visa. So imagine you come into the U.S., you come up to North Carolina, you get a good paying job under a legal residency or legal worker's permit, but you have to take off a week out of every 6 months to go back, drive 2 days back to El Paso, stay there a day or two to get your paperwork renewed, and then drive 2 days back. So this idea that everybody's wanting to come into America and just not be legal is just not true. We are making it impossible for people to be legal in this area. And the problem is neither the Democrats nor Republicans want to fix this because this is an easy fix. You know, you can make the online, you mean to tell me we can institute a healthcare online system that goes online and helps people renew yearly, in the multiple millions, their healthcare coverage, but we can't help 11 million people renew online every 6 months on a simple visa system. And the reason that they don't want to fix that is because that would do away with a lot of the issues and problems, and then you don't have any political stuff to talk about. And so what's really happening is politics is playing games with people's lives. And so for you Hispanic people out there, I'm on your side. I want you to be able to be here legally. I want you to come legally, but I don't blame you because I feel like we're not setting up the systems that are necessary for you to be treated fairly. And I also don't think it's right for us to leave a border wide open. So what happens to us that are in the middle of this, where we're looking at the extremes and thinking this is absolutely insane? Well, we do the very best we can to provide opportunity to these people, to give them the best opportunity we can within the law, and to try to make sure that they're cared for within the law the best we can. And that way, we treat them not as slaves, but as brothers and sisters in the field of work. That's what we want to do at Elevate. That's what we want to do in business, and that's what we should be doing as Americans. So that's my response to all of this. I know it's long, but hope that helps you.